The grand hall of the Luminara Tower glowed with an almost ethereal elegance. Golden sconces bathed the deep indigo walls in a warm, inviting light, their reflections dancing across polished silverware and diamond-studded jewelry. The clink of wine glasses and the murmur of self-assured voices created a symphony of ambition. This was the annual Horizon Innovators Gala, a magnet for the world's sharpest tech moguls, rising stars and venture capitalists, all here to network, to dazzle, and above all, to be noticed. Lila Chin sat tucked beside a cascade of orchids near the edge of the hall. Her wheelchair was positioned just out of the way of the bustling crowd. At 17, she was by far the youngest attendee, but no one seemed to notice her. She was accustomed to blending into the background. Her mother, Nora Chun, founder of a cutting-edge biotech firm, had insisted she attend, though Nora was already swept up in a flurry of handshakes and business cards. Lila didn't mind too much. She cradled her notebook, her pen gliding across the page in swift, deliberate strokes. She wasn't sketching the opulent chandeliers or the glittering gowns. She was capturing them, the people. The way a startup founder tugged nervously at his cufflinks. The way an investor's eyes darted, always chasing the next big deal. Lila saw the moments no one else did, the ones that revealed who they really were. Across the room, Julian Hayes adjusted the lens of his camera, his focus razor-sharp as he scanned the crowd. Hired to immortalize the gala, his job was clear: capture the faces that would headline magazines and social media feeds. The power players. The dealmakers. The ones who screamed success. The quiet girl in the wheelchair didn't register on his radar. She wasn't part of the story he was paid to tell. Lila noticed him not noticing her. It was a familiar sting. Photographers always passed her by. Too still, too unremarkable for their glossy narratives. She sighed and returned to her sketch, her pen tracing the anxious curve of a tech mogul's smile. Then, a voice broke through the hum of the gala. "She's the heart of this whole night." Lila's pen froze. She looked up. A man stood beside Julian, his posture relaxed but commanding, arms folded. He was tall, with neatly cropped hair flecked with silver, his tailored blazer understated yet sharp. His eyes held no trace of pity, just a quiet certainty, as if he saw something the rest of the room had missed. Julian blinked, thrown off balance. "Sorry, what?" The man didn't flinch. "You've snapped 100 photos of the same predictable faces, but her." He nodded toward Lila. "She's the only one here really seeing anything." The air grew taut. Julian's lips pressed into a thin line. He wasn't used to being called out, especially not by a stranger. Lila's heart raced. She hated being stared at, but there was something in the man's voice, a conviction that her presence mattered, that made her clutch her notebook a little tighter. Julian gave a dismissive huff. "I don't have time for this." "Marcus Reed," the man said, offering a hand. "I organized this gala. And if you want a photo that actually means something, you'll listen." The tension crackled. Julian hesitated, then glanced at Lila again, really looking this time. Lila held her breath. Would he brush her off like everyone else? Or was this the moment something might shift? The room seemed to pause with her, the unseen girl suddenly caught in the spotlight. The chatter of the gala faded as Julian Hayes lowered his camera, his gaze settling on Lila. For the first time that evening, he saw her, not as a shadow to be ignored, but as a person with a story. Lila's fingers tightened on her notebook. She wasn't used to this kind of attention, the way eyes lingered on her wheelchair before meeting her own. But Marcus's words echoed in her mind. "She's the heart of this whole night." No one had ever spoken about her like that. Julian took a step closer, his boots soft against the polished wood floor. "What are you working on there?" His voice was cautious but curious. Lila hesitated. Her sketches were her sanctuary, a way to process a world that often overlooked her. But Marcus's steady presence gave her a flicker of courage. She turned her notebook toward them. The pages were alive with faces, not the polished headshots of a gala spread, but raw, fleeting moments. The way a young entrepreneur's shoulders slumped when she thought no one was watching. The way a venture capitalist's grin faltered mid-conversation. Each line of her pen revealed something unguarded, something true. Julian's eyes widened. "You did these tonight?" Lila nodded, her voice soft but steady. "People show who they are when they think no one's looking." A moment of silence hung between them. Then Marcus chuckled, a warm, quiet sound. "See," he said to Julian, a spark of triumph in his tone. "Told you." Julian exhaled, running a hand through his tousled hair. For a moment, the polished photographer looked almost disoriented, as if Lila's sketches had shifted his lens on the world. "These are incredible," he said, his voice tinged with genuine surprise. Then, to Lila's shock, he held out his camera. "Want to give it a shot?" Lila's breath hitched. The camera was a sleek, professional model, its weight and complexity intimidating. She'd never touched anything like it. I don't know how to use this," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus leaned down, his tone warm and steady. "Doesn't matter. You've got the vision. The rest is just mechanics." Lila hesitated, then reached for the camera. Its heft felt foreign, but as she lifted it to her eye, the world through the viewfinder clicked into place, familiar in its framing. She scanned the room, her gaze landing on her mother, Nora Chun, near a sleek cocktail bar, surrounded by a cluster of venture capitalists. Nora's posture was rigid, her smile polished but fraying at the edges, a telltale sign of the pressure she carried as a woman leading in a male-dominated field. Lila zoomed in, adjusted the focus, and pressed the shutter. The soft click felt like a heartbeat. Across the room, Nora's head turned, as if sensing her daughter's gaze. Their eyes met through the lens, and for a fleeting moment, Nora's guarded expression softened into something raw, pride maybe, or recognition. Before Lila could hold on to it, a voice broke the spell. "Miss Chun, a quick word?" A journalist waved Nora over, and the moment dissolved. Lila lowered the camera, her pulse racing. Julian let out a low whistle. "You're a natural." Marcus grinned. "What did I tell you?" But Lila wasn't listening. She was staring at the camera's preview screen, where her mother's unguarded expression stared back, vulnerable, real, human. For the first time all night, Lila felt like she wasn't just a guest dragged along to her mother's world. She belonged. The universe, however, had other plans. A sharp voice cut through the hum of the gala. "What's happening here?" They turned to see a woman in a tailored gray suit, her arms crossed. Cassandra Vale, the gala's coordinator, stood with an air of authority, her eyes flicking between Lila, Marcus, and Julian with barely concealed irritation. "Julian, we need you at the stage for the awards," she said, her tone clipped. "And you," she said, her gaze settling on Marcus, "the vendors need your approval on the lighting setup." Marcus's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "I'll take care of it." He glanced at Lila, his voice softening. "You okay?" She nodded, though her chest felt suddenly heavy. As Marcus wove through the crowd, Cassandra's attention shifted to Lila. Her expression remained neutral, but her voice turned cold. "Sweetheart, you might be more comfortable in the lounge area. This space is for event guests." The words stung like a cold wind. Lila's grip tightened on the camera, her mind scrambling for a response. Before she could speak, Julian stepped in, his voice calm but unyielding. "Actually, she's with me." He gently took the camera from Lila's hands, then, to her surprise, looped its strap over her shoulder. "I'm training her as my assistant shooter tonight. That works, right, Cassandra?" Cassandra's lips pressed into a thin line, but she couldn't argue with the photographer she'd hired. "Fine. Just don't let her get in the way." She turned on her heel and disappeared into the crowd, her sharp steps echoing. Lila stared at Julian. "Why did you do that?" He shrugged, but a glint of warmth flickered in his eyes. "Because Marcus was right. You're the heart of this night." He nodded toward the stage, where the awards ceremony was about to begin. "Come on, let's get some shots." And just like that, the world shifted. The lens that changed everything. The crowd's murmur grew louder as guests drifted toward the stage for the awards. Lila's fingers trembled against the camera strap, the weight of Julian's trust as tangible as the device around her neck. She'd spent her life watching from the edges, but now she was stepping into the frame. Marcus was gone, pulled away by the gala's demands, but his earlier words still anchored her. Julian stayed close, his usual cool detachment replaced by a spark of intrigue. "Ever used a prime lens before?" he asked, tweaking the camera's settings before handing it back. Lila shook her head. "Here's the trick," he said. "The closer the shot, the deeper the story. But you already get that, don't you?" He gestured toward her notebook, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Lila swallowed, her nerves buzzing. He wasn't just indulging her. He saw her. The first award was announced, a young entrepreneur honored for a breakthrough in renewable energy. The crowd erupted in applause, a wave of sound washing over the Luminara Tower's grand hall. Julian nudged Lila. "Go for it. Find the shot." Lila lifted the camera, her heart pounding like a drum. Through the viewfinder, the world sharpened into light and shadow. She didn't focus on the winner's practiced grin, but on a man in the fifth row, a competitor, his applause half-hearted, his jaw tight with barely concealed jealousy. Click. Julian peeked at the preview screen, and let out a soft whistle. You don't hold back, do you? Lila's lips curved slightly. You said to find the story. He grinned. Keep it up for the next 20 minutes. She did. She captured the way a recipient's fingers fumbled with the award, the way another's eyes darted nervously to a rival across the room. Each shot was a revelation, a truth whispered through the lens. Then came the final award, the gala's highest honor. The presenter's voice boomed. This year's Trailblazer Award goes to Nora Chin. The applause thundered. Lila's mother ascended the stage, her poise flawless, her smile radiant for the crowd. But through the camera, Lila saw the truth, the subtle tension in Nora's shoulders, the quick double blink she always did when nervous, a habit Lila had noticed since childhood. She zoomed in, her breath steadying, and pressed the shutter. The click felt like a confession. Nora's gaze flicked toward Lila for a fleeting second during her speech, thanking her team, her investors, her vision. In that moment, Lila saw something unguarded, love, pride, maybe regret, before Nora looked away. Click. The shutter echoed in Lila's chest. Julian, watching her instead of the stage, frowned. You good? Lila didn't respond. She was staring at the preview screen, her mother's raw expression frozen there, a tangle of strength and vulnerability too complex for words. A voice broke her trance. Lila. She turned. Marcus stood behind them, his blazer slightly rumpled, his expression concerned. Everything okay here? Julian smirked. Your protégé's a prodigy. She's been. I need to show you something, Lila cut in, her voice steadier than she felt. She turned the camera toward Marcus, revealing the shot of her mother. He studied it in silence, then said softly, That's not just a photo. That's a window. Lila blinked. What? Marcus knelt beside her, his voice low. You think your mom doesn't see you? Look again. He tapped the screen. That's a woman who's been waiting for you to see her. The words hit like a gust of wind, stealing her breath. Julian, unusually quiet, watched them both. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. I've got a show next month, he said, handing it to Lila. I want that shot in it. Lila's fingers closed around the card. Why? He shrugged, his usual cool demeanor softened. Because the best photographers don't just take pictures. They make people feel seen. He nodded toward the stage, where Nora was finishing her speech. Go talk to her. The crowd roared as Nora stepped down from the stage, her eyes already searching the room. Marcus squeezed Lila's shoulder. Go on. Lila hesitated, then gripped the camera tighter and wheeled forward through the crowd, the lights catching the lens around her neck. The room seemed to part for her, and for the first time, she felt her mother wasn't just looking for her, she was waiting. The buzz of the post-ceremony crowd filled the air, champagne glasses clinking, laughter spilling over. But for Lila, the world narrowed to one point. Her mother, standing just 10 feet away, her expression unreadable. Lila rolled forward, the camera heavy against her chest. Nora met her halfway. Lila, Nora said, her voice softer than usual. I didn't know you were into photography. Lila lifted the camera slightly. I wasn't. Not until tonight. A pause hung between them. Then Nora did something unexpected. She knelt, bringing herself to Lila's eye level. The gesture was so unlike the commanding CEO who dominated boardrooms that Lila's breath caught. Can I see? Nora asked. Lila hesitated, then turned the camera's preview screen toward her, showing the shot from the speech. Nora's face, stripped of its usual polish, revealed a flicker of vulnerability. Hope, fatigue, love. Nora went still. For a moment, Lila feared she'd overstepped. Then Nora's throat bobbed. Is that how I looked? Before Lila could answer, a voice interjected. It's how you felt. They turned. Marcus stood nearby, hands in his pockets, his tone gentle but sure. Nora stood slowly, studying him. You're the event coordinator? Marcus Reed, he confirmed, then glanced at Lila. Your daughter's got a rare gift. Something shifted in Nora's expression. Pride, yes, but laced with something heavier. Regret, maybe. The moment broke as Cassandra Vale appeared at Nora's side. Ms. Chun, the investors from Singapore want a photo with you. Her gaze flicked to Lila, then away, dismissive. Nora's jaw tightened. Tell them I need a moment. Cassandra's eyes narrowed, but she retreated. Lila braced for the usual, her mother's apology, the promise to talk later, the inevitable pull of work. But Nora surprised her. Actually, she said, loud enough for nearby guests to hear, my daughter's documenting the evening. She'll be with me. She looked at Lila, her eyes steady. If that's okay with you. Lila's heart raced. Yeah, she said softly. It's okay. Marcus, watching them, gave a small nod and stepped back. But as Nora guided Lila toward the investors, Julian intercepted them. "Hang on," he said, tapping his phone. "You'll want to see this." He turned the screen toward them. A post on X showed Lila's photo of Nora, already amassing thousands of likes. The caption read, "Trailblazer Humanized, captured by 17-year-old artist Lila Chin. More to come at the Hayes studio." Lila's stomach lurched. "You posted it without asking." Julian looked sheepish. "Couldn't resist. It's powerful." He glanced at Nora. "Good PR for both of you, right?" Nora's expression darkened, but not, Lila realized, at the post itself. "You're showing her work?" she asked Julian, her voice calm but sharp. Julian blinked. "Yeah, it's perfect for." "No," Nora cut in. "If Lila's work is shown, it's her call, not a footnote in your portfolio." The air crackled with tension. Lila, stunned, looked between her mother and Julian. This wasn't just about a photo. It was about her voice, her identity. Then Marcus spoke. "There's another way." He pulled out his phone, showing a contact, Elena Reed, curator at the Starlight Gallery. "My sister," he said. "She's been after me to organize a show. If you're up for it, Lila, we could make it happen. Your terms." Silence fell. Nora looked at Lila, waiting. Lila stared at the photo on Julian's phone, her mother's unguarded moment now rippling across the internet. Then at Marcus's offer, and the camera in her hands. The choice was hers. She took a breath. "I want to do it, but not as Nora Chen's daughter." She met Marcus's gaze. "Just me." Marcus smiled. "Then that's how it'll be." Julian shook his head with a wry chuckle. "You're gonna regret passing on my offer." Lila adjusted the camera strap. "No," she said quietly. "I don't think I will." As the crowd swirled around them, Lila Chen didn't feel like an afterthought. For the first time, she felt like the story. "Lila!" Nora's voice trembled, a rare crack in her composed exterior. She reached out, then paused, her hand hovering near the camera. "This is so raw," she said, her throat tight. Lila swallowed hard. "I was going to say it's beautiful." A flash popped nearby. They turned to see Julian capturing their moment, his usual detached professionalism replaced by a spark of awe. "Don't mind me," he muttered, tweaking his lens. "This is better than anything I've shot tonight." Lila's cheeks warmed. She'd spent years fading into the background at events like this, but now she was the focus. Marcus reappeared beside Julian, his calm presence grounding the photographer's energy. "Check your notifications," he said, nodding at Julian's phone. Julian glanced at the screen and froze. Lila leaned in. Her photo of Nora, the unguarded one, was blowing up on X, posted with the caption, "The true face of leadership, captured by 17-year-old Lila Chen at the Horizon Gala." "That's not my account," Lila said, startled. Julian rubbed the back of his neck. "Yeah, that's on me. Posted it when you weren't looking. It's viral, kid." Nora stood, her CEO demeanor snapping back. "You shared my daughter's work without permission." Before the tension could escalate, a voice interrupted. "Ms. Chun, a moment?" A reporter from Tech Trend waved, holding a recorder. "We'd love to talk to you and the young photographer about that stunning portrait." Lila's stomach flipped. This was moving too fast. Marcus leaned in, his voice low. "Breathe, Lila. You're in charge of this story." Nora watched her, waiting. "Your call, Beatty," she murmured, using the Mandarin term of endearment she hadn't used since Lila was little. Lila glanced at the photo on Julian's phone, now shared thousands of times, at the eager reporter, at Marcus's steady presence. She adjusted the camera strap. "Let's do the interview." What followed felt surreal. The Tech Trend article went live during the dessert course. By the time the gala ended, Lila's Instagram had surged from 150 followers to 15,000. A scout from Aperture magazine slipped a card to the event staff, but the real shock came when Marcus's phone buzzed. "Elena," he answered, stepping away. The call was quick, and when he returned, his eyes gleamed. "That was my sister. The Starlight Gallery wants to feature your work in a solo show next month." Lila's hands flew to her mouth. "What's the catch?" 12 new pieces," Marcus said. "Raw, honest portraits. No posed shots." Julian whistled. "Starlight's huge. You'd be their youngest artist ever." The weight of the moment settled over Lila. This wasn't just about one photo anymore. It was a turning point. Nora rested a hand on her shoulder. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you." Lila looked around the glittering hall, at her mother's proud gaze, at Marcus's quiet faith in her. She wasn't just Nora Chen's daughter anymore. She was Lila Chen, artist. She took a deep breath. Tell Elena yes. As Marcus made the call, Julian shook his head with a wry smile. Kid, you're about to be a star. He paused, then added softly, don't let the noise change how you see. The lights, the chatter, the attention, it could have been too much. But Lila lifted her camera, capturing Marcus's warm grin, her mother's tender glance, even Julian's fleeting sincerity. This was her life now, and she wasn't just watching it, she was shaping it. The Starlight Gallery's opening night hummed with anticipation. White walls glowed under soft lights, showcasing Lila's photographs. Each frame captured unguarded moments, a chef wiping sweat from his brow after a grueling shift, a teacher's weary smile as she graded papers late at night. Even Julian, caught mid-laugh, his usual swagger softened. Lila sat near the entrance in her wheelchair, wearing a deep green dress with tiny gold flecks, a gift from Marcus that echoed the gallery's theme of raw humanity. She clutched the program, its edges crumpling under her nervous grip. Marcus appeared, holding 2 glasses of sparkling juice. Nervous? She took a glass, her hand unsteady. What if they only care because I'm Nora Chen's daughter? He nodded toward the crowd. Look closer. Lila followed his gaze. Guests stood transfixed before her photos. A man dabbed his eyes near her series on street vendors. A young woman traced the frame of a barista's exhausted grin, as if it reminded her of someone. Then she saw her mother, standing before the centerpiece, the gala shot that started it all. Nora's profile was lit softly, and Lila noticed the faint lines around her eyes, the weight of years spent proving herself. Nora turned, sensing Lila's gaze. Their eyes locked across the gallery, and without hesitation, Nora wove through the crowd toward her. I need to, Lila began. Marcus squeezed her shoulder. Go. The gallery parted as Lila wheeled toward her mother. When they met halfway, Nora didn't offer platitudes. Instead, she handed Lila a small box. Open it later, she said, then glanced at the photos. You made them feel seen, Beatty. That's a gift. Before Lila could reply, Elena Reed, the gallery curator, clinked a glass. A word from our extraordinary young artist. A microphone was pressed into Lila's hands. Hundreds of eyes turned to her. Her throat tightened. Then she saw Marcus in the crowd, mouthing, Tell them what you see. Lila took a breath. When you're always on the outside, she said, her voice growing steadier, you notice things. The way someone fidgets with their glasses when they're scared. How a real smile feels like a secret. She glanced at her mother. We all want to be seen. These photos are my way of saying, I see you. The applause began softly, then roared, vibrating through the gallery walls. Later, as guests mingled, Lila opened her mother's gift. Inside was a worn lens from her grandmother's old camera, a passion abandoned after her illness. A note read, she'd be so proud. So am I. Across the room, Julian was pitching something to Elena, likely a collaboration. Marcus caught Lila's eye and raised his juice glass in a quiet toast. Lila touched the old lens, then lifted her camera, not to hide but to frame this moment. Her mother's soft smile, Marcus's steady nod, the gallery alive with her vision. Click.